What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Billy Collins.
MATJ.
And this is Magician in the Jock.
Magician in the Jock. What are we talking about?
Man, let's talk about something that
You just had a birthday.
I did.
49?
49.
49.
Knocking on the door of that half century.
And you're still growing.
I am. Well, at least my beard is.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm digging the goatee. Have people been giving you some compliments on it?
yeah, well, a lot. A lot of people said how thin your face looks.
Yeah.
And you look younger without all the gray.
Yeah.
Which is always a plus. So
Whatever we can do for the audience. Yeah.
whatever we can do to try to polish a turd.
Yeah,
is basically
man.
what we're doing with me.
My face peeled off last week. I look like the sick dad from Braveheart. Remember the guy who was always talking to the Scottish king, the Bruce or whatever. That's what I look like. So
man, you were pretty bad off, my brother.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I sat there. I felt bad for you of us sitting here trying to even record.
Oh man,
because you were wiped.
But no, it's all good, man. So you were visiting your daughters who are both in Raleigh, right?
Yeah, I took a little road trip. Took a couple of days off just to recharge and to reset the play button. And I think sometimes and you do it too. I know we talked about this. We get to a point where we're mentally exhausted, and we got a lot of things going on because not only the channel, but we have life, we have work, and sometimes you just need to press stop.
Yeah.
And just kind of get the creativity, because I think we were close to hitting a wall on creativity.
We have nothing else to offer.
We were just kind of like slugs. So I thought it was good for me to get out of town.
And you came in today, and just so you guys know, we're kind of scripted, but we're still in that kind of filling out process of, here's the type of content we put out. Here's the type of people that will get value from it.
Right.
We're still in that mode right now, figuring out our voice. And a lot of times you can just kind of look to your own life for inspiration.
Exactly. And I think out of anything from this channel, we've said this from the beginning, we want it to be entertaining. Yes, I think we're both polarizing individuals, but we also want to have it to help people and to move, like I said earlier, help people move the needle.
And selfishly, it's kind of therapeutic at times.
It is. I was going to say something along those lines.
Yeah, it's like a video diary kind of deal.
Because you can go back and look at yourself. We talked about a couple weeks ago the first video where we look back and hey, that's Billy from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's good for us as well.
Yeah.
Helping us put a dent.
And, we just put out the video where we were talking about who should start a channel or whatever, and it kind of came to me. It's step one is content, step two is audience.
And that's exactly right.
Nobody's got a built-in audience. Well, I guess there are those who have achieved really great things.
Well, yeah,
there's a lot of people that are curious what they have going on, but for us, we're kind of starting rock bottom. I shouldn't say rock bottom, but pretty,
pretty close.
We don't have a built-in. We don't have 10,000 people that are please say something so we can listen to it.
Right.
Which it kind of stinks, but it's also a good thing too. It takes the pressure off, and now you can kind of build an organic audience.
And I think, like you said, it's a good thing. Is first of all, so we can polish what we're doing. I don't want to have 100,000 subscribers and they watch a video and go, "What the hell is this shit?"
Right.
It's so now we're having a chance to kind of.
Well, and the good thing is, it's not gonna. You're never just gonna have 100,000.
Right.
Well,
unless you're.
But but you would have to do something like Matthew McConaughey or Kevin James created a YouTube channel a year or so ago. So he kind of already had a built-in audience, but he had already done so much content before. I've got a little bit of celebrity just from. It's been a decade now.
Yeah, but you still bring that gravitas to the situation.
There's still some people that are like, okay, I wonder what he's up to now.
What's he been up to? Oh my God, why is he with that old guy? I don't understand this.
Yeah, for real.
How pathetic has his life become?
It's like take a kid fishing. But
you should see when we go to the grocery stores, he rolls me around.
Yeah, seriously. Just for the discounts. That's the only reason.
My dad, AARP.
Yeah, man. One more year.
But one more year and I'm there, buddy. We're going to get all this stuff.
You turn 49, and it's crazy. So I turned 34 this year. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know if you're like me at all, you thought at certain ages you would just have the shit figured out.
Yeah. And well, for me, and I joke around with a lot of people, is that I think I'm 49. I'm like, is there a time where I should probably grow up?
Right. Or am I going to outgrow the childish kind of ambitions or playfulness or whatever?
And there's a part of me that says, I hope you never do.
Yeah.
But as far as being further along in life, yeah. I thought I would be much further. I've had multiple setbacks.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of what we're going to touch on. So you were up in Raleigh. You didn't have a wild 49th birthday. Like
I did not. I took
you just needed to get away, and you were with your two daughters who are in Raleigh, right?
Right. My oldest is 25. My middle daughter is 21. And
Brittany's only 25?
She'll be 26 in
okay.
October, yeah. So, but I felt like I wanted to just get away, go visit them. They always kind of put me in check in an odd way. When I get out of hand, they kind of pull me back in.
Yeah.
And it was good just to talk to them and to discuss certain things in my life that's happened. Well, especially with my oldest, because she's the one that had some of the questions, and I really filter a lot of things through her because she's kind of like the voice as the oldest child. I mean, you're the second. Mm-hmm. So I'm the oldest. So my parents would always talk to me before they talked to my brothers or sister about certain things. And Brittany kind of does that too. She is one that filters and asks the questions, and kind of it's almost like a trial run.
And it's a unique relationship too. So it's no surprise we did the video on how a beta ruined my marriage. You're a couple years removed from going through a divorce.
Right.
And I say it's a unique relationship with Brittany because Brittany's not actually your biological daughter.
Exactly.
She was very young when you got married.
Yeah. She was 2 when we got married.
Yeah.
And I met her. She was a year old when I met her.
Yeah.
So I've been with her 98% of her life.
Yeah. So, I mean, I look at, I've got a son. If God forbid, something happened, my wife and I split up, I would immediately think, like, what's that relationship going to be like with my son? And looking at your situation, the first kind of question I have is like, well, there's really nothing tying you to her now other than the experiences.
Yeah.
But she's not your blood. Were you concerned, like, now that I'm not with her mom anymore?
That was my biggest fear, that I was going to be replaced. Yeah. I feel like I was going to be replaced.
But there's no need to keep me around anymore.
And luckily, she's got a good relationship with her biological dad.
Yep.
And I'm her stepdad, but we are thicker than thieves. We always have been. Always will be. We were joking around about walking down the aisle when she gets married, and she said, "You're going to be on one side, and my other dad's going to be on the other side."
It's going to be a pretty wide aisle.
Yeah, because I'm going to start lifting real heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
But she was just basically reassuring, like, you are my dad, whether what happens or not.
You're the dad that stepped up. You're not a stepdad.
Yeah, I mean. And she's like, you're the one that's always been there. You'll always be there.
Sure.
She said, if I have a problem now, I can easily pick up the phone.
And to her, it probably sounded ridiculous to even insinuate, like, oh, well, there's no reason to talk to me anymore. But I could see that. That would come into my head.
Yeah.
Now.
And she said, I think her words were, that's just silly.
Yeah. So, but it's good getting that reassurance. Like,
yeah,
okay, cool.
It is.
And so you guys are up there. And as dudes, we are kind of quiet. You know what I mean? We put our head down.
Yeah, when situations come up, and especially for me, and I know you as well, I don't want to burden people with what's going on in my head, and that's probably a bad thing. But for me, that's just the way I roll, and I try not to let.
Smart.
Yeah, I try not to let it show on my face or reflect or kind of express the way I'm feeling, because I don't want to burden people with it, first of all. And then 2, I just...
And in reality, it's not really anybody's business.
Exactly. So, but in this instance, it kind of is, because I had a conversation with Brittany, my oldest, and she had a lot of questions about what went on with the marriage and how everything worked and why the divorce happened, and she wasn't.
She wanted to hear it from your perspective,
right? Because she got from her mom, which, it's
sure,
two sides to every story.
But the loudest side tends to. If you don't say anything, that's the only side that they have to go off of.
And she was telling me how she got mom's side, but she really didn't get my side. And she was asking me what I was going through and how in the past of, I was not faithful years and years ago. Mm-hmm. And at that time I was faced with a bunch of resistance from people calling me names, people calling me, wishing I would just die. And at those points, I just took it all because I deserved it, or I felt like I deserved it. And I faced everything and I walked through it. And the person that I did this situation with, had the affair with, she moved away.
Right.
And she didn't have to face it. Mm. But I sat back and I faced everything. And Brittany didn't understand what I was going through because she didn't know about it till recently. So she asked, she said, "Did you really go through that?" Mm. And I said, "Yeah." It was every day, people looking at me like I was the scum of the earth. And I probably was. I mean, we're talking 17 years ago. I was fairly young.
But it's not a healthy way to go through it. But I mean, and dudes, we beat ourselves up so much, like we deserve it, right? We're
yeah.
What are those monks that are walking, oh, and they hit themselves in the head? We can tend to do that and think everyone that looks at us, they're judging us, and they should, because I'm a piece of crap. I did this. And we talked about that before, you were having to play from behind forever at that point.
Yeah.
You were just lucky that she decided to stay with you. And even though there might be some truth to that, it's not real healthy.
Yeah, and it became toxic.
Yeah.
I mean, it really did become toxic. And that, years go by, and you think there's going to be a magic rainbow that's going to come down, and the fairy's going to slide down the rainbow and make everything right, and you're going to be fine, and everything's going to be like the way it was. And that's furthest from the truth. It was never going to happen, but sometimes you hope and you pray that it does, and it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
So
then fast forward, because you guys were together for a long time after that.
Yeah, we're talking, that was 16, 17 years ago.
And this is stuff that you were talking with Brittany about.
Right. Yeah. I was talking to her about,
because she was what? 8, 9 years old around that time. So I mean, obviously you weren't sitting her down there,
right? And I didn't want to. We didn't. To the credit of my ex, she wanted to shelter the kids from them being hurt, and that was tremendous of her to do that. And I sure said, I mean, I would think partially she was protecting me as well. She didn't want the resentment for the kids for me, so I do applaud her for that. But
it's a weird time. I don't know what point in my life you realize your parents are humans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Forever, they're like mythical beings. They have all the answers.
And they do nothing wrong.
They can't do anything wrong. I still remember the first time I heard one of my parents cuss. And I'm like, what?
What? How?
What on earth? And now as I've gotten older, I've actually gotten a lot closer to my parents now, just because I know them more as
human beings.
Not my mom and dad, even though you can never get rid of that. But it sounded like that's kind of, you were talking to her as a
we were
fellow human being.
Exactly. We were more or less adults.
Yeah. Well, talking. You guys are, yeah.
Yeah, and it just so happens that she's my daughter.
Yeah.
Who I can basically go to at any point. I can with all my children, but for Brittany, it's a little different because I've been with her the longest, of course, and she kind of gets me. She's the oldest, and she bears some of the same responsibilities that I have.
Yeah.
And she's an integral part of the family.
Yeah.
So, it's I go to her for certain, I wouldn't say advice, but like I said, to filter certain things. But yeah, we had a long talk and then about that, and I just basically, I was, like I said, before we came on, we were whiteboarding and stuff. I was listening to David Goggins' book again. Read the book, get the audio if you haven't gotten it, because the audio is fantastic. It's more like a podcast. I think you've listened to it, right?
I haven't heard it yet, but
Yeah, it's more or less like a podcast type feel to it. But there's a chapter 5 is this Armor the Mind. And, it's kind of like going through things to challenge your mind to block any kind of negativity, any kind of, what am I saying? Mind.
No, I give, I mean, and that's biblical too. The Bible talks about a renewing of your mind.
Exactly.
And, an idle mind is wrong or bad. And when you're going through crap, I mean, we've all gone through crap.
Yeah.
Right? Some of us more public than others. But, it's like when you go through a breakup, you can compound the breakup by listening to like sad music.
Right.
And watching movies that are like heartbreak movies, and you just get
The Notebook.
Yeah, and like it can mess you up. I remember the past couple weeks I've had to almost cut off content that I was watching because it was kind of doom and gloom content. Even though it was real stuff, it could be like around politics or whatever. It didn't leave me feeling like a lot of hope.
Yeah.
And I was like, almost wished I could get plugged back into the Matrix and like not know everything that's going on. So I've had to really, watch what I put in my mind, what the types of stuff you watch.
That's funny that
the
you
movies,
said that,
the things you listen to.
Because I've kind of stopped watching the news and any kind of TV.
Yeah.
But I felt like with everything going on, I was like, let me just turn it on and see what's going on. And about 30 minutes and I was done.
Yeah.
Because there's so much negativity and so much hate that goes towards it. And I don't think that is right for anyone to have to deal with, because everyone has their own personal things going on.
It's
their
a
own
fallen
demons
world, man.
Yeah, it's but anywho, Armor of the Mind it also takes you back to a spot where you think, all right, so it kind of hardens the mind so you can get through things. So when you think that you can't make something or go through something or complete a challenge or whatever, you can reflect back on that pen. It's almost like the pen on a map. And you go back and say, I made it through that. If I made it through that, I can probably make it through this.
Gives you perspective.
Give you a little bit of hope, perspective,
Yeah.
To make you...
Was that the hardest? What was harder, the situation 16, 17 years ago, or the actual divorce being finalized?
For me, it was the actual divorce. I mean, 16, 17 years ago was definitely rough. But it was also...
Still had hope of restoring it.
Right. I could, if she gave me a chance, I would try to rebuild it. And I obviously didn't do a good job.
Well, I mean, you were playing from behind, we talked about that in the video, how beta ruined your marriage. And I know we're doing kind of a little project on the side, which is, because a lot of men go through this, but you kind of lost your balls.
I did.
You felt like this was an honor for me to stick around. That's not a good position to be in.
Yeah, and you know what? And it wasn't anything that my ex hasn't. I mean, she was actually said one time, you need to get your balls back about you. And I didn't really understand it at the time until it was over. And then now doing this podcast, like you said, this is very therapeutic for us.
Yeah.
And we talked about that during how a beta ruined my life or ruined my marriage. And it dawned on me, that's what she was talking about.
Yeah. And we've talked before, like, women just want you to get it.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to, like, instruct you how to be a man.
Yeah, there's no manual. And let's be honest, we're not going to read the manual anyway.
Right.
I mean, we're just going to put shit together.
No doubt. Okay, so what did you leave this weekend with some clarity?
I did, because I think I left with clarity, and I'm hoping, I know that Brittany feels a lot better too, because she sees where I came from and what I hid from them, as far as, even now with the divorce, like we talked about.
Yeah.
I had a really bad night one night with the divorce papers.
Yep.
And as we reflect on it, now that we talked about it earlier, it became reality. One, it became like, in the beginning it was just like verbiage, and then
divorce is like a threat for a long time, like, get your shit together or we're gonna, and for you, was a big hit to your ego. You've said that before, like, and we don't get divorced. I mean, my parents are still together. Like, this is something
it's like, what am I doing? I did this wrong.
Yeah.
So it is ego tarnishing when you get through it.
Yeah, because it's basically like, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Yeah, it's like, you're not good enough for me.
And I'm not trying to pile it on, but
no, I understand, but you're right.
I went through a similar, playing professional football. You get on the team, and there's a few guys on the team that their positions are pretty rock solid. Like Eli wasn't showing up to the facility thinking he was going to get cut.
Right.
Eli Manning. But for me, it was something that was always on my mind. Like, I have every single game, I've got to perform or I'm going to get cut. We've all seen Hard Knocks where they throw all your crap in a black trash bag and you're gone. They take your name tag off.
Yeah.
And eventually it happens, but it kind of took a little bit of the pressure off, which we talked about off air. Like, once the divorce goes through, it's like, okay, well, at least I don't have to try and like hold on and protect this forever. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
there's a
that
sort
fear
of
that threat was gone.
It's like getting. I've never been to jail, so I can't really reflect, but I can only imagine. It's like
people that are on the run. Like, eventually they're just like,
just catch me.
They just want to get caught. Like, I'm tired of being on the run.
Tired, yeah.
Yeah.
But so I talked to Brittany about that the night. Well, when I got the papers. I made the mistake of grabbing all the papers, blah, blah, blah. We got in a big fight. And it kind of I spiraled that day really bad. I'm not one that seeks enjoyment out of drinking or, in those situations.
But it's self-medicating kind.
But I did self-medicate. Mm-hmm. And when I self-medicate in that situation, I can get very nasty and mean and mad, and it's
a mood enhancer. If you're in a great mood, the alcohol is going to make you. But if you're already down, it's not going to suddenly lift you up.
It will 10x that.
Yeah, no doubt,
beyond belief. So I popped off and went. I was just being stupid. So Brittany called me that night, and she said, "Daddy, just go to bed. Just please go to bed. Just."
You're like, wait, relax. Who's the daughter here? Who's the dad?
And she kind of walked me through it.
Yeah.
But I remember specifically that night, and like we said earlier, is I pray every night, for my family, for my parents, you, all your family. I mean, all my close friends. But that night I prayed, and the prayer was, God, if you can just do me one favor, don't let me wake up. Please don't let me wake up. Please just let me go.
Let me drift off.
Yeah. I'm tired. I'm in so much mental pain.
And a lot of times you pray that too when you feel like you're a burden.
Yeah, and I felt like
it would be better for everyone involved if I wasn't around anymore.
Yeah, and I didn't want to. I don't believe in suicide. I wasn't going to kill myself. That's furthest from my brain. But if I so happened didn't wake up, I would have probably been okay with that too.
Right.
But he said no. And I woke up, and then that was the aha moment for me that from that point on, I'm going to do something every single day that's going to help either me be a better person, my friends be a better person, my family to be a better person or better people. And in return, maybe that will radiate off them, and they will help others. And that's when I started the channel and really tried to portray that and tell other people's stories and have them.
What did Brittany say when you said that? Because even though you say like suicide, that sounds suicidal.
It is. It sounds suicidal, but it's kind of in the same realm.
Yeah.
And Brittany pretty much said, "I didn't know you were that bad." She said, "I didn't know you were at that point," and she said, "I'm sorry that you had to get to that rock bottom point." So that is.
Had you ever prayed that before?
No. No, that was the only time that I have prayed for not to wake up.
Yeah.
Because I just had it. And I've gone through a lot, through losing businesses, losing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of money, to losing jobs, to affairs, or all that stuff. I've gone through a lot.
What do you think was different this time?
I think I just hit I was just exhausted. Like, I was just like I got tired of getting up.
Tell you, man, the enemy will whisper those lies like you're worthless.
Yeah.
Just, hey, man, it'd be better for everyone involved. And you actually can, like, it's sad because society a lot of times will romanticize things. And
Yeah.
a lot of times suicide can be romanticized, you know. But, I mean, imagine the hole that would have been left in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, and I think that was, so I did have a birthday yesterday. And
Happy birthday.
thank you.
49.
49. But you kind of, you don't know how many people you touch until, like, you know, I know it's kind of weird and foolish, but looked at the Facebook happy birthdays, and it just kept coming and coming and coming and coming. And it's like, okay, well, I would affect so many people. There are people that do watch what we do, and they appreciate us for who we are. And it's those points that help you keep moving forward. And that's the armor for me, armor of my mind, is that, you know, if I made it through that, I made myself a better person, whether people believe me or not. I don't care. I know deep down I'm a better person for what I've gone through. And I'm going to help every single person along the way that I can for them to be a better person.
But it sounds like, I mean, if you can't give something that you don't have.
Exactly.
So like you had to kind of pull yourself. Really, it's not even like a conscious decision. It's that country song, if you're going through hell, keep on going.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the devil won't even know you're there. You kind of just got to go through it, you know? What's that? I'm Finding Nemo, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. And there's like all these things just rush to my head, but there's some truth. I've been in some dark, you know, your identity was in your marriage for a long time. I remember you saying that.
We
like
would
the Bill and Fran show.
We were
Billy and Fran show. Sorry,
we thought that we would have our own show, like, and we were funny. I mean, we're funny together. She's a very funny individual, so it would have been a great dynamic to have the Billy and Fran show, and I felt like our life was like a sitcom almost, and you know, it was very entertaining and for the 20 years, it wasn't all horrible.
No.
We had some really fun times, and we had our own little things that we did. We were better. Like Brittany even told us, she said, you guys just seem better friends than a couple. And she said, I really hope that in her relationship that she finds that she can still be friends and lovers and all that fun stuff.
There's no perfect recipe.
Yeah, there's not.
But a lot of times if your identity was wrapped up in your marriage, like for me, my identity was wrapped up in being a football player. I mean, hell, it's been a decade and I still wake up thinking like it was such a big part of my life and it was something that so many people knew me from, you know? And when that was gone, that's where those...
Do you think that was your armor moment?
What's that?
The armoring of your mind when it was over, when you finally came to the conclusion it was over? Because I mean, out of everything, I think you've benefited tremendously from the infamous punt to the being cut and then coming back, and because I'm sure you had to face a lot of obscurities.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it showed like when you go through that, you can go through a lot of stuff. So yes, it did give me that perspective. Like it couldn't get any worse than that, you know? Yeah. But it's tough at the same time because you're trying to replace that. Like I got a lot of significance out of being even though I was there for a year. But I mean, the years prior to that at East Carolina, it was something like people wanted to be around you.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember after the bowl game, my senior year, I went back to East Carolina. I wasn't on the team anymore, but I knew I had a shot at getting drafted or at least possibly playing. It didn't feel like it was over. You know, I knew at some point.
It was another chapter getting ready to open.
Yeah, but I was still a football player.
Right.
You know, and now I had more significance because I was potentially a professional. And I remember being in the training room and overhearing these two athletic trainers. Athletic trainers are the ones that, tape your ankles. You see them on the sidelines getting water or whatever. So we have a training room, and you get close with those guys. I mean, I was in there getting rehab or getting stretched out, all that stuff. But anyways, long story short, I was in the locker room, and I kind of overheard two of them talking. It was talking about another senior who wasn't going to go on and play. And they said, man, there's nothing more tragic than an ex-athlete. And I didn't really know what they meant because I still saw myself as an athlete, like, hey, shoot, I'm going to be in the NFL for a decade at least, as soon as I got done with it, because my identity was so wrapped in that, I deliberately wrapped my identity in that, but also that's where everybody knew me, right? I still get invited to stuff as Matt, the former NFL player, and when that was gone, man, it was tough. Like and I'm sure it's similar, like you're an ex-husband. When you're an ex-anything, you see this with a lot of ex-military, you have an identity crisis.
Right.
And it's like how do I replace that with something, and coming to the realization, it's going to be very difficult for me to replace the NFL because it's so massive. It's a big hurdle. It's like a gift and a curse. And I said it in another podcast, like my biggest fear was my biggest year of my life would be the 1 year after college. And like for the rest of my life trying to surpass that. It is difficult,
Yeah. So, but you don't show it. You're very like, when I see you, you're
you
always.
Didn't show it either.
Yeah, well, that's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true, yeah. But you're very smooth about the way you do things. You
Right.
You don't show that it bothers you all that much.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that could be the armor. Like, okay, well, now it's time because you're super creative.
Right.
I mean, Matt does a lot of the editing and does all the thumbnails for the channel stuff. He's super creative. So
or a control freak on it too.
Whatever. I mean, whatever the case would be. But I think for you, it's just, I still think you're going to do something bigger than what.
Man, I hope so. But you're constantly striving for that. Like, what else in my life?
But is that a bad thing?
No, it's not a bad thing, but it can be kind of a burden at the same time because it can cause you to downplay other things that, someone who, for lack of better words, didn't peak right out of college. Right. They're on kind of a slow build, whereas I was college on top of the world in the NFL, and then you kind of drop down, at least in public perception. I didn't feel like I changed.
Right.
But it is kind of a gift and a curse, and it can cause you to downplay things that, let's be honest, most quote-unquote normal people would say, dude, that's rad. I'm like, yeah, it's rad, but I'm always comparing it. I look at being a former NFL player, it's like you used to date a supermodel, the most beautiful woman on the face of the earth, right? You're never going to date and then you break up. And everywhere you go, people are like, dude, what was your ex like? Do you think you'll ever get back with your ex? And you're like, no, I'm going to find a girl that's even better than her. And you realize,
she's going to be a 10.
And like as time goes on, your ex gets more and more beautiful. You know what I mean? Like the NFL has only grown.
Right.
And I've talked with a lot of former athletes, and they kind of say the same thing. Because as soon as you're done, you got your close friends and family, but the 99% of the people in your life are there because you're part of that team, right, or that organization, and a similar. It could be like that with marriage. A lot of your friends, you're
100%. You're a tight woven.
Yeah. And now it's like, oh, it's just me. Well, you're not going to do stuff with other couples that you just did stuff, because it's awkward.
Yeah, and on top of that, it can be you're lonely.
100%.
It's. And I'm sure the ex was lonely too. But for me, I can only speak for myself. Man, there were nights where I just sit there. I remember the first day that I moved into my condo.
Right.
And I got everything unpacked and dressers were set. And I sat on the couch by myself and I said, now what?
Yeah, I don't know what to do with my hands.
What do I do now?
Yeah.
So those are the moments that I look back and, kind of help me. Like, okay, well, I didn't know what to do then, so I had to start from the beginning.
Yep. And that is tough because I mean a lot, especially for dudes, we love companionship, but you got to be okay by yourself.
Yeah.
That's the only way that you can be in a healthy relationship, right? Because if I'm in a relationship and I'm depending on this person to be like my everything, that where I get all of my, identity, all my fulfillments from that person, that's putting way too much pressure on that person. And it's also giving them a lot of power because if they're gone, now I'm like, I get, just like I gave the NFL, it had so much power in my life that this is why athletes will delay growing up because it's like, there was a couple years there. I'm like, I'm going to get back in. I'm going to get back in. And then it's slowly the calls start to slow down. And maybe similar with the marriage, like, we're not going to get divorced. And then you finally get those papers and you're like.
And it was just like, whoa. Like, this is real.
This is legit.
This is, so it's really
It's
over?
the Billy show. Like, now, what the hell do I,
So what do? I go find a 6'3", 206.
Well, 6'3", yeah. Well,
I'll say
6'2".
Depending on the shoes.
Depends who measures you. Yeah.
Jock to go hang out with.
But yeah, so I mean, for people listening, and we're just kind of just being brutally honest right now.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you before the show started, you're best positioned to help Billy 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
Right. We all kind of are. You're because you just came through it. What would if you could talk to that Billy that was, having that rock bottom night, what would your advice be to him? What would your
So that Billy, if I could go back.
And other Billies that are going through that right now.
Yeah, and other people that are probably in the same situation. If I could go back to that point and talk to myself, I would say, listen, it seems like the end of the world. It seems like you're a failure, but you're not. Because you're going to get up from this. You're going to grow from this. You're going to make yourself better, and by making yourself better, the people are going to benefit that you surround yourself with. So get up. Wipe the tears. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's be legit. And then.
So it'd be more like an assurance, like, dude, I know you're in a really destructive mode right now.
Yeah, and then I would also tell myself, look, you put yourself here. And by putting yourself here, you can get yourself out. I mean.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Right.
So that's kind of what I would say, and I would say to others too, is like, look, if you put yourself in a situation, find any kind of positivity notes from that and pull yourself out. My brother, we were joking around before, my brother looked at me one day, and my brother's very low on words, very not motivational, just kind of like a
similar to Young Jock. Yeah. Same way.
And he was just, middle child. He's close. No,
he's
Jock's
the youngest. He's younger than me, but now,
Yeah, but he was. My brother said, "At least you're not dead." And at least if you have a pulse, with that being said, if you have a pulse, you can do anything by pulling yourself up. If you hit rock bottom, we'll start climbing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to seem like motivational or
why
whatever.
Not?
Well, whatever. But I want people to know that we all face things. You've been through stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been through stuff. And if you still have a pulse, you can make it. You can do whatever your mind says. I don't care how old you are. We're 15 years apart in age. And I'm just as big a child as he is. So
I'm very mature.
As he's got the baby shoes of the golf balls.
Yeah, seriously. I'm just sitting there wondering, like, is the pirate's head showing?
So, but, it's just like, just keep going. Just do it. I mean, I don't know what the right words to say. It's just, I don't want people to give up on themselves because there's other people that haven't given up on you. And if you give up on yourself, you're gonna affect a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a ripple effect. If you're not pushing the needle, if you're not making yourself better, then I feel like you can't help others.
Right.
And by personal experience of what I've been through and how I've accomplished, kind of building myself back at the age of, at the time when this all happened, I was 47. And it's 2 years grinding, and I feel better than I ever had before. I went back to the gym, got myself right. I was a mess physically, mentally, and emotionally. So that's kind of what I would tell myself.
Yeah.
Then I would look at myself coming back, like, would you shut the hell up?
Well, that's the thing. Like, they always ask, like, motivational guys will say, like, if you could write a letter to your 18-year-old self, what would it say? And I'm like, would it matter? Like, would I actually listen to it? Or, would I be in a, I think something that's helped in my life is, being a believer, being a Christian. I believe that I'm divinely led. You know what I mean? So if you think life is happening to you or life is happening for you, like, your life might be similar either belief you have. It could be kind of woo-woo whether or not it has any difference, but perception is reality, and a lot of times when you look back, you realize, man, that was exactly what I needed to get to where I'm at right now.
I am so glad you said that, because
you're welcome.
That's one of the things I told Brittany is that God will give you certain things to challenge you.
Work all things for good. Yep.
To challenge you to see if you're worthy enough to make it through it.
Right.
There's been a lot of challenges in both of our lives and we made it. And I don't think there's
somewhat. And I think it's knowing too that like you don't want to go to your grave with the music still inside you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Les Brown says that a lot. Or he'll say stuff like, there's a lot of people who died at 22. They just waited till they were 80 to make it official.
Right.
The older I get, it's almost the bigger sense of urgency I have. Playing in the NFL, I thought something was unique and special about me, that it was just going to happen. Yeah. There's a lot of freedom when you realize someone's not showing up to your house with a big check saying, wiping away all your debts and all this stuff. It's like, no, you gotta. It's a big world. You've got to add value. You've got to be excellent, and you got to look out for number one, right? Because as a dad, as a husband, you're always kind of like deferring to other people, and you can kind of put yourself on the back burner.
Well, it's the airplane mask situation.
Put yours on before you help your neighbor.
Yeah. So and that's kind of where I am too. So got to start thinking about me and bettering me.
For sure, man. You can fool everyone, but that the man in the mirror. It's like, you can't BS yourself.
And I do look at that guy every day, and I ask myself, in the beginning, I was like, is this guy full of shit? Are you just saying this? Do you really feel it? But now I look in the mirror and I'm like, no, I'm legit.
Yeah, dude.
Like I'm legit. I've battled more stuff than I would ever want to in my life, and I've surpassed it, and I've survived, and I'm going to win. But yeah, that's kind of like when I look at it.
Dude, you better be your biggest fan. Because for me, I wasn't my biggest fan. I had a lot of self-worth because a lot of people found value in what I was doing with football, right? Well, as soon as football was gone, now suddenly I wasn't worth anything, right? Nobody wanted me around. Even that prior, they probably didn't either, but my perception was they were. And it is kind of a, and talk about a woe is me, right? Like, my biggest hurdle was not being an NFL player anymore. But
that's tremendous, though. It was not something to golf at.
It was big, man. But it showed, like, it made me really evaluate, like, okay, why was I in the NFL, right? Why was I paid like I was? And I was like, shit, I was one of 32 in the world. Like, that means if I want to achieve something that parallels that, I got to be one of 32 or one of, it's not going to just happen in something that I'm mediocre at.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think everyone's life goes through those, right? We've planned out our life. You planned it out. I planned it out. And it's like, what is it? You want to make God laugh? Just tell him your plans. Yeah. There's some truth to that, man.
Oh, yeah.
We're all trying to figure out what we want to be when we get older.
Yeah. And now I just need you to be one of the top 32 podcasters or
if you're
YouTube stars.
One of the top 32 in anything, dude, you're gonna be doing all right.
You're gonna be doing good.
Doing good. But yeah, guys, I mean, hopefully you got something that we just wanted to be honest. We didn't have
a real big topic.
I think it's a big topic. I think people will get something out of that.
Yeah, I do too. And like Matt said, if you got value out of this, if you could do us a favor, just leave a thumbs up. But I more importantly just want to. I just want to help people, and I know you do, and I think that reflects on some of the guests that we have that come into the show, what they talk about. When you and I mean, we've had a lot of people when we did the video. I know we keep going back to how a beta ruined my marriage, but it's kind of like the same realm. But a lot of people got value at that and have come up to me and come to us and said, "Hey, that was really good. Thank you for doing that." And for me, that's a sign of success.
Well, you're like, holy shit, I have something to say. Like, I guess, maybe I'm not completely full of shit.
Right.
Brandon Bouchard said something. He's a motivational guy. When it's all said and done, we're going to ask 3 questions. Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? And like, I wake up every day like, do I even matter?
Yeah.
Like, if I was gone, would anyone even would it even matter? Right? Did I do anything?
I hopefully I can see down, when I pass away or whatever, but just see how many people are at my funeral. Do you ever think of that?
All the time.
Yeah, it's just like they're going to be like.
I need to earn. We're talking about earning subscribers. It's like you got to earn raving fans at your funeral.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, is there going to be one guy with a shovel and a priest?
Yeah. Like how many people are going to? I've visualized while I was at other funerals, and you're sitting here thinking like, man, I wonder what I'm going to do for lunch. And you're like, shit, if I was in that box, would people be like sitting here wondering, when is this pastor going to like wrap it up?
Is he going to go?
Because we got to get some lunch and I got to get back to work and the AC, I got the HVAC guy coming up, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, but yeah, did I live? Did I love? Did I matter?
So if when I die, I want to shave off the goatee and leave the weekend at Bernie's. Oh, and I want people to walk around with me and just.
Dude, it's going to be a celebration, dude. I'm getting all this stuff. This is mine.
I get all the lights and the cameras and the microphones.
I'll throw that fake hand into your casket.
There you go, bitch.
But
all right, well, you got anything else?
Nah, man. Or I guess another thing, too, for those that are going through shit, be like very careful on the stuff that you put in your mind, even before you go through it. But like, if you're pouring positive stuff into your head, it's got a compound effect, positive and negative stuff. Zig Ziglar talks about a positive mindset doesn't make you do anything better, but it makes you do everything better than a negative mindset will. Yeah. And that it doesn't just happen. If you're expecting it to just happen, it's like sitting around, man, I just wish I was in shape without ever working out or whatever. There is a compound effect.
It's an exercise. You got to exercise the mind.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of rewiring yourself, and the world is very negative. It's a very negative world, especially in the news. Treat your mind as kind of like a computer, and it just files all of this stuff. And I've had to be really cognizant of that recently.
Yeah.
I used to be huge into that stuff. Like it was nothing but positivity. And as you get older, you start to think, I need to be more informed on what's going on around the world. Can you believe what's going on in Afghanistan? Or look at all this, blah, blah, blah. And you can get black-pilled really quick. So, be careful what you file into your mind. Because, I mean, it's got a compound effect one way or the other.
That is great advice. Great advice. Because it's, like you said, you can get wrapped up in a bunch of crap that you don't need to get wrapped up in.
Yeah, man.
And you are the driver of your destination bus, so.
That's it, man.
But anyway, guys, if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel.
Smash the like button.
Smash the like button. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace.